Ohio, Mr. Ryan.
Consent, Mr. Speaker, to enter a letter into the record from the Machinists Union.
Without objection, and now the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, one of the earlier speakers said, this is the most dramatic change in labor law in 80 years. And I say, thank God. In the late 70s, a CEO made 35 times the worker. Today, it's 300 to 400 times the worker. And our friends on the other side running around with their hair on fire. Heaven forbid we pass something that's going to help the damn workers in the United States of America. Heaven forbid we tilt the balance that has been going in the wrong direction for 50 years. We talk about pensions, you complain. We talk about the minimum wage increase, you complain. We talk about giving them the right to organize, you complain. But if we were passing a tax cut here, you'd be all getting in line to vote yes for it. Now stop talking about Dr. Seuss and start working with us on behalf of the American workers. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman.
1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, we're at a crossroads coming out of this pandemic. We are either going to decide as a country whether we're going to move forward together or we're going to double down on the past and the bad economy. In the rescue package, 2.3 million Ohioan children will get $3,000 or $3,600 to stabilize themselves, to pull them out of poverty. And the Republicans said no. We had a pension reform in there. 40,000 Ohioans will now be made whole instead of losing half their pension. Republicans said no. We want to do infrastructure. Republicans said no. We want money to the state and local government for hazard pay. Republicans say no. Mr. Speaker, if we removed the word no from the vocabulary of the people of the United States, the Republicans would be speechless. I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Ryan.
Gentleman is recognized for 30 seconds.
I want to thank the gentleman from New York and the other Republicans who are supporting this and thank them for their bipartisanship. To the other 90% of our friends on the other side of the aisle, holy cow. Incoherence. No idea what you're talking about. Benghazi, you guys chased the former Secretary of State all over the country, spent millions of dollars. We have people scaling the Capitol, hitting the Capitol Police with lead pipes across the head, and we can't get bipartisanship. What else has to happen in this country? Cops. This is a slap in the face to every rank and file cop in the United States. If we're going to take on China, if we're going to rebuild the country, if we're going to reverse climate change, we need two political parties in this country that are both living in reality, and you ain't one of them. I yield back the balance of my time.
Back the balance of his time. Members are reminded to direct their comments to the chair. The gentleman from Mississippi reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that we all take a deep breath right now. And everybody breathe for a minute. And everybody stop the theatrics. And everybody stop the arguments that are not relevant to this issue. This is a very solemn moment. We're here to talk about something that's very important to the entire of our government.
Gentleman's recognized.
I'm prepared to close on this bill, but since my name was invoked, I think I want to make a couple of comments to what the minority leaders was saying, maybe much to the chagrin of staff who's here. But fear. Look, the attending physician of the United States Capitol, the top doctor for Congress, asks us to put on masks when we come to a chamber with 435 people. I hate these things. Absolutely. It was terrible having to put this back on. And we do it because the top doctor for all of us asked us to, and I may not be from a hot spot. Speaker may not be from a hot spot. Speaker Pelosi may not be from a hot spot. Somebody in this chamber is coming from a hot spot. somebody represents the hotspots. And they get in a plane and they fly here and they interact with all of us. And then we leave here and we go home to our families. Some take care of their sick parents. Some take care of kids who may have an autoimmune disorder. And I just find it absolutely immature and appalling to somehow diminish it to try to score cheap political points. And that's exactly what we saw a few minutes ago. That is beneath a minority leader of one of the major political parties in the United States of America, saying we should take no caution that someone from a hotspot is working in this chamber and could potentially get someone infected that could go home to a sick parent or an immune-compromised kid. That is beneath us. That is beneath us. And it's certainly beneath leadership here in Washington, D.C. So I'm sorry I had to comment on that because it's very frustrating. We're dealing with a complicated pandemic, a new strain, and we're trying to figure everything out. And the attending physician says, since you're a group from all over the country, be a little bit cautious. And he gets mocked. This is the doctor we all go to. You're denigrating the attending physician? Has it gotten this bad here? We'll be the first one to go down there when we're sick, need an antibiotic, get your checkup. I mean, come on. Stop. Just stop with this craziness. We're trying to be safe, trying to protect our family members, our kids, our parents, close relatives. And the minority leader mocks that. Mocks it, and mocks the top doctor who has a very distinguished record and a very distinguished career and spends his life making sure we're healthy. Shameful. I urge a yes vote on this en bloc amendment and yield back the balance of my time.
Colorado.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Ryan.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
I thank the gentleman. Look, we see our Republican friends are very upset. They said, this is embarrassing. What are we doing? What have we done? What you're mad about is that we are delivering for the American people. We saved pensions. We cut taxes for working class people, invested in the communities, invested in the schools, and now universal preschool. Everyone can go to community college, vision, dental, hearing for Medicare recipients, paid family leave. If you think for 1 second, I'm going to apologize for what we're doing, you are wrong. Once again, we should have done this 30 or 40 years ago, and obviously, once again, the Republican Party is MIA. Yield back.
The member.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Ryan, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, this infrastructure bill is about two things. This is about putting money in the pockets of the American people who've had a rough go for the last 40 years, and this is about taking on China. Now, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, CEO pay since the 1970s has gone up 1,300%. We've seen that the top 10% of the wealthiest people in this country own 90% of the stocks. And so this bill is about how do we get money in the pockets of people. Universal preschool, that's 1 year less of child care that a family has to pay. That's money in their pockets. Capping child care at 7% of your income. That's money in your pockets. Helping seniors with glasses or hearing aids. That's money in their pockets. A tax cut, finally, for working people, not for the top 1%, but for families, that's money in their pockets. And if we don't recognize in this chamber and down the hall that China is a looming threat, not even looming, they're here. Semiconductors, they outmanufacture us. Electric vehicles, they outmanufacture us. Communications equipment, they outmanufacture us. Pharmaceuticals, Our seniors get their pharmaceuticals from China. When are we going to wake up? When are we going to have the guts to level the playing field? The guts to take on China? The guts to do what's right so our kids and grandkids can thrive in the United States? We have got to make these investments. We've got to make them now. Washington has to wake up, or the next bill we're going to have to pass is Mandarin in all our schools, because the game's going to be over. Yield back the balance of my time.
Speaker, I now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Ohio, a distinguished member of the Appropriations Committee, Mr. Ryan.
Gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you. This is a wonderful place. I got to tell you, our child tax credit is 1 year more than your child tax credit. We did one this year. We're going to do one next year, and we're going to keep going. I love this place. Guys get wrapped around like a pretzel in this place. If this was a football game, right? Let me be clear. I'm against any tax cut for the wealthy. This is an investment in working class people, whether they're white or black or brown. But when I listen to the other side, I hear somebody who, if this was a football game, I'd go back and say, I want a review. I want a review of the play. And I want to pull up the C-SPAN video of all the Republicans at the Rose Garden touting a big tax cut for the top 1% that blew $1 trillion hole in the economy. This place is ridiculous. Let's invest in the people. Let's not cut taxes for rich people. And we got a new name for the GOP, the Grand Old Phonies. Yield back the balance of my time.